In the last few days, there are signs that the war in Ukraine is moving into a new and potentially significant phase, with early indications of a change in Russian tactics and some signs that Ukrainian forces are mounting successful counterattacks. So there's plenty to discuss with our defence expert and former soldier, Dr. Rod Thornton. Rod, could we talk about what's happening around the capital, Kyiv, and also in Chernihiv? Still being shelled, but some signs that the Russians are withdrawing?
Yes, they are pulling back. So we've seen signs recently of the actual Russian forces pulling back from Kyiv, not so much from Chernihiv. But yes, they're pulling back their forces from around Kyiv. So what the Russians are now doing is concentrating on certain other axes of advance, not so much Chernihiv and Kyiv.
And what about Ukrainian counterattacks in this area?
They will continue. They will be harassing attacks. Ukrainians are more of a defensive army than they are an offensive army.
And can we have a look too at what's happening in the east, in the Donbass region? Because the Ukrainian government has said that they fear a massive Russian offensive around there.
Yes, what we are expecting now is the forces that are being freed from around Chernihiv and around Kyiv to move to the Donbass region, where they'll reinforce the Russian forces already there, trying to create this land corridor between Crimea, which the Russians have held since 2014, and the Donbass regions already held by the Russians. So what they want to do is marry up their forces, and it's all centered on Mariupol now.
And can we look at Mariupol in a bit more detail? 150,000 civilians still in desperate need of evacuation in that city. Is there any hope that Ukrainian forces can hang on there?
Well, not really. I mean, the Ukrainian forces can hang on, but the problem is the tens of thousands of Ukrainians trapped in the city, which the Russians want to keep there as a psychological tool to put pressure on the Ukrainian army to surrender. And you can see why the suffering of the population in Mariupol will cause the Ukrainian forces to eventually surrender. You've seen the massive destruction in Mariupol. It's a city virtually destroyed, virtually leveled.
Such a bleak picture there. To sum up, what do you think it would take to actually shift the war in Ukraine's favour?
Well, on the ground, I do not think there is much that Ukrainian military can do to push back the Russian forces sufficiently to claim some sort of victory. All we can hope for is some sort of, shall we say, a regime change in Moscow, pushed by sanctions, pushed by Putin's unpopularity within the country, which is growing. So that's the only reason, the only way I can see of this war ending in a positive way for the Ukrainians is if there is some regime change in Moscow that renegotiates with the West and we reach a settlement and the Russian forces withdraw.
Right, Rod, thank you for setting all of that out for us. And the Ukrainian government has appealed to NATO leaders to start supplying it with tanks and planes in order for it to try and reclaim more territory. There's no sign that they're prepared to do that yet, but we will be tracking every development here in the briefing room.